Welcome to Next Tongue Experiments, the podcast that hacks language learning. I'm your host, Sasha.
And I'm Tasha. Okay, Sasha, let's just dive right in. What if I told you you could learn the basics of a new language enough to have a simple conversation in the time it takes to watch an episode of your favorite show?
Just 1 hour to learn 100 new words?
Exactly. It sounds impossible, right? Like some kind of late-night infomercial promise.
Totally. But today on Next Tongue, we're going to break down exactly how you can do it. And we promise there's no magic, just method.
That's the core of what we do here. So let's start with the principle behind this crazy claim. It's all about the 80-20 rule, or the Pareto principle.
Right, the idea that 80% of the results come from 20% of the effort. We see it in business, in fitness, but how does it apply to language?
Well, it's surprisingly direct. Studies have shown that the top 100 most frequent words in any given language account for about 50% of all spoken communication. 50%, just from 100 words? That's wild. It is. And if you stretch that to the top 1,000 words, you're looking at understanding close to 80 or even 90% of a conversation. So the idea isn't to become fluent in an hour.
Yeah, that's the key distinction.
Right. The goal is to build a functional foundation incredibly fast. It gives you this massive psychological boost. Instead of feeling like you're staring up at this impossibly tall mountain, you suddenly got a foothold. You've achieved something tangible.
That makes so much sense. It battles that initial inertia, that feeling of being completely overwhelmed that stops so many people from even starting.
Exactly. And I can actually speak to this from personal experience. It's not just a theory for me.
Oh, okay, story time. Let's hear it.
So a few years ago, I booked a last-minute trip to Italy. I mean, very last minute. I had about a week before I was flying to Rome, and I knew exactly zero Italian. Nada.
Wow, okay, that's some pressure.
Right? I was panicking a little. I didn't want to be that tourist who just points and speaks English louder. So I remembered reading about this concept, the 100-word sprint. I was skeptical, but I figured, what have I got to lose? An hour?
Better than nothing. So what did you do?
I found a frequency list online for Italian. You know, words like I, you, to have, to want, water, food, where, when, how much, the absolute essentials. The building blocks. The absolute building blocks. I spent 1 hour, just one focused hour, creating these crazy mental images to remember them, and then I just drilled them with digital flashcards. The next day, I was on a plane.
So, the big question, did it work?
It was a game changer. I'll never forget walking up to a little cafe near the Colosseum, my heart pounding, and saying, "Vorrei un caffè per favore."
I would like a coffee, please. Classic.
And the barista smiled and replied in Italian, and I understood the gist of it. It was just about the price, but the fact that a conversation, a real one, had just happened, it was electrifying. Later that day, I was able to ask, "Dove è la stazione?" and understand the directions. It was rudimentary, but it worked.
That's amazing. So it's not about sounding like a native, it's about making a connection and navigating the world. That's a huge takeaway.
Totally. That 1 hour gave me the confidence to try, to make mistakes, and to actually engage. It turned the trip from a passive viewing experience into an active, participatory one.
And it's not just about the practical benefits of travel, right? There's a deeper cognitive aspect to this. Even learning a small number of words in a new language starts to rewire your brain in a positive way. Okay, so you've sold me, and I'm sure our listeners are leaning in right now thinking, okay, how do I actually do this? Let's break down the actionable steps. This is the core of the episode.
Let's do it. So we've designed a 4-step, 60-minute plan. Step 1 is finding your list.
This is crucial. You don't want to waste time learning words for anteater or chandelier.
Right. No anteaters allowed in the first hour. You need to be ruthless. Just Google top 100 most common words in Spanish or whatever your target language is. You'll find tons of resources.
And focus on the types of words, right? Nouns, verbs, connectors.
Exactly. You need pronouns like I, you, he, she, it, we, they, core verbs like to be, to have, to go, to want, to do, and connectors like and, but, because, for. These are the glue that holds sentences together.
Okay, so that's step 1. Get a high-frequency word list. What's step 2?
Step 2 is the fun part. Make it stick with mnemonics. Your brain doesn't remember abstract data very well, but it is a supercomputer when it comes to remembering vivid, weird, or funny images.
This is the memory palace idea, right? Creating association.
Precisely. You need to link the foreign word to an image or sound in your native language. For example, the Spanish word for bread is pan. You could picture a giant panda bear trying to stuff a frying pan full of bread into its mouth.
Okay, that's an image I'm not gonna forget. The weirder, the better.
The weirder, the better. Or take the Russian word da for yes. You can imagine your dad nodding enthusiastically while holding a bottle of da sani water. The connection doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be memorable for you.
That's a powerful hack. So you're not just repeating words, you're creating a little story for each one.
Yep, and that brings us to step 3. Use a spaced repetition system, or SRS.
Okay, that
Sounds technical.
break it down for us.
It's simpler than it sounds. It's basically smart flashcards. Think of apps like Anki, Quizlet, or Memorize, and SRS shows you a word right before you're about to forget it. So it optimizes your review time. It's incredibly efficient. Instead of reviewing words you already know, it forces you to focus on the ones you're struggling with. The key here is active recall. You see the English word and you have to actively pull the foreign word out of your brain. That act of pulling is what builds the strong neural pathway.
Okay, so we have the list, the memory technique, and the tool for drilling. That leads us to step 4, which is the sprint itself. How do we structure that 1 hour?
All right, get your timers ready. Here's the breakdown. The first 10 minutes, curate your list. Don't just copy and paste. Quickly scan the top 100 or 200 words and pick the 100 that feel most relevant to you. So you're personalizing it from the start. Smart. Yes. Next, you have 30 minutes, the biggest chunk of time. For each of your 100 words, create your mnemonic and input it directly into your SRS app. So on one side of the flashcard, you have bread, and on the other, you have pan. And maybe in the notes field, you write panda with a frying pan. So you're creating your study materials as you learn. Exactly. This process itself is a powerful form of learning. Then for the final 20 minutes, you drill. You just run through your flashcard deck. Don't stress about getting them all right. The goal is just to make that first pass, to introduce your brain to every single word you've just created a story for.
So let's recap that schedule. 10 minutes to find the words, 30 minutes to create memory hooks and put them in an app, and 20 minutes for the first drill.
That's the 60-minute sprint.
I can see how that would work, but I can also hear some of our listeners thinking, is this just a party trick? Does it actually last? Let's talk about the pitfalls and what comes after the hour.
Great point. The biggest pitfall is perfectionism. People get stuck trying to find the perfect mnemonic, or they get frustrated they can't remember a word after seeing it once. You have to let that go. This is about speed and momentum.
Done is better than
And perfect. Absolutely. And to make it last, you just have to keep using the SRS. 5 to 10 minutes a day is all it takes. The app will tell you what to review. After that first hour, the heavy lifting is done. The rest is just maintenance and gradual expansion. So this isn't a replacement for a full language learning journey. It's the launchpad. It's the ultimate launchpad. It gets you from zero to conversational basics faster than any other method out there. It gives you the confidence to then go out and try speaking, listening to music, or watching shows in that language.
I love that. It reframes the entire process. So as we're wrapping up, we want to pose a question to our listeners to get them thinking. Let's do it. All right, everyone, here it is. If you had just 1 hour right now to learn the core of a new language, which one would you choose? And what is the very first thing you'd want to be able to say?
Ooh, that's a great question. For me, it would be Japanese, and I'd want to learn how to ask, "What do you recommend?" at a restaurant.
Always thinking about food, Tasha.
What can I say? It's practical. Let us know your answers on our social media. We're at Next Tongue Pod. We'd love to hear them.
Okay, so let's do a super quick recap of the main takeaway.
The takeaway is simple. You can make incredible progress in a language in just 1 hour. Find a frequency list of the top 100 words, use crazy mnemonics to make them stick, and drill them with a spaced repetition app.
It's about working smarter, not harder. It's about building momentum and proving to yourself that you can do this.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So stop waiting for the perfect time. Grab a list, set a timer for 1 hour, and unlock your next tongue. Because language isn't a mountain to be conquered, it's a path you start walking, one word at a time.
Thanks for tuning in to Next Tongue. Until next time, happy learning.